Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. It's Monday. We're back. Grumpy is here. But even this morning, when I grabbed Grumpy off the cabinet, he was like, not too shabby. So
I
it's
was
all good.
I was really hoping I'd see someone other than Grumpy this morning, but
How
you know,
dare you? How dare you? Grumpy belongs on Monday. See, you can see a little smile there compared to normal. I can tell the difference because I see him every week. The audience might not be able to, but
that's fair.
Matusha's with us as well, not as grumpy. What's happening?
Uh Not much. I mean, it's a great morning, isn't it? It was a wonderful Sunday. It's a wonderful 14 minutes, let's be honest. There was a lot of time before the last 14 minutes was a little rough, but yeah, it's been great, and I just I'm happy for this guy. I'm really happy for this guy. I mean, his we can't forget Allison's saves yesterday were just perfect and exactly what we need at the time. So yeah, it's a good morning.
Yeah, it was like the most saves he had in the Premier League game, which I guess says a lot about how much we had to defend yesterday. Yeah, right. Like we went from, I mean, I know I went from like around the 55th, 60th minute. It almost looked more like 55th, I guess. It was more like watching a funeral, like just like, oh my God, kind of a watching. And then things kind of started turning around. We'll talk about who gets the credits. Is it us? Is it them? Put about probably a bit of both. But uh, Simon says, tell us about Liverpool signings.
Nope.
Oh, just stay tuned. I don't know. That's another thing that I guess we have to talk about, right? Are we going to get somebody, especially with Van Dijk is only one game, so I don't think that's going to change anything. There was a lot of talk about Mo yesterday, and I'll be honest, and I want to ask you that as well. But I know, like midway through the game, I was like, dude, if this shit goes like this, like you get pummeled that game yesterday. Van Dijk is out for like 3 games or something like that. I really think it would be a decision maker with Mo. Sergi says Salah leaving. God knows. I don't think so. A lot of the word out there is no. I didn't check this morning to see if there is anything new, to be honest with you, in that front. Everything else seemed to be the same old in terms of we have interest and stuff like that. But well, let's start with that, I guess, since we like went to channel over there. What do you think about the Mo thing? And what do you think that the yesterday changed Mo's mindset?
Here I thought it'd be a fun, easygoing morning, and we have to talk about this stupid situation. Um, yeah, I think I don't think his mentality changed from yesterday. I think if things went really south, the rumors would have gotten a lot hotter, and it would have been a lot more frustrating to have to listen to and deal with for the next 3 days, right? However
Well,
long
three
we have
weeks,
left.
I guess, because they don't
Yeah,
end till
well,
September 20th.
yeah, I guess that's true. Fuck.
Sorry, I
Um,
didn't mean to make it. You want the grumpy mug?
yeah, let's switch mugs. This is ridiculous. Um, so yeah, I think if it went really south, there would be a lot more heat. But I don't think that he is lying, and I don't think his agent is lying either when they say that he is committed to the club and that he wants to be here. I think I've said all along that if Liverpool qualify for the Champions League this year, he'll give it one more shot next year. But if they don't qualify this year, then I think he'll be gone, and I think that's okay because he's still
Yeah.
at a point in his age where he wants to cash in, and he can. I think he can still perform at his age. He could probably perform for the next 3 or 4 years. Just his 31 does not look like other people's 31. And I think we mentioned that yesterday during one of the shows. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there's any movement there. I think he's staying. But if there is a really silly offer, we always go back to that silly offer. If it's like 200 plus million, I mean, you got to take it.
Yeah.
I think you have to.
I think, like if we don't make Champions League and he wants to cash in, honestly, if we don't make Champions League, I want to cash in too. I mean, that would work
Yeah.
for us, I think, too. We want to cash in because obviously then we need further rebuilds. So we need the cash. So I will be okay with that at the time. So as he says, Sal and his agent seem like straight shooters. He only leaves if she decided to cash in. Then Kazi says the manager was pretty serious with his answer yesterday. And so I go back to what Sir Z says. I think if the offer is so obnoxious, that won't matter what the manager says. I hate to say it. He did seem like he's like, it's over for me. Ryan says, say we sell him next year. I think it's necessary that was replacement in January. Yes and no, really. How you gonna, depends on how much you get for him. I don't know if the guy you want now is going to be available. This kind of like gives him time in some ways, right? Like they're like, we got. I mean, I'm sure they always knew, like if we wanted to, we could sell him next year. But I think now there's this potential market that will overpay for him and pay a lot for him, and that can kind of change your calculations. Sadly, his replacement right now, I mean, somewhere like nobody's going to be the same quality. He's one of the top in the world.
Ben Doak. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's like a new signing. But yeah, I mean, still, you would think to get somebody who has the potential to be Mo, you are looking at 50, 60 and stuff like that. I mean, you would have to be extremely lucky to go get like a winger in like the Dutch
like
league,
like a well,
20, and then hope for the best.
Saka. I mean, that would be the only name that would come to mind. I think that right away I would think, okay, yes, he could be a solid replacement for the future because not only is he young, he's talented enough. But Arsenal's not going to sell him for less or ever, unless he really wants out. So that sort of point is moot. But those are the kinds of players that you would have to consider as a replacement to get any sort of value back.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan says, and I do understand that point. Everybody would know we need a replacement. I think you do your business early. You're fine with that. You go to the situation that, Simon's asking about, like Ehrenberg. It's a totally different situation because there's a few weeks left and not a lot of time to shop around. I mean, it's like going to the Grand Bazaar and then you can tell the guy, yeah, I'm going to go around and ask for prices. If it's almost closing time, nobody's buying that shit. If it's early in the day, everybody's going to be like, no, you stay. I give you a better deal, and you kind of get a better deal. So Grand Bazaar shopping tips for those out there heading over to Istanbul, by the way. That's how you freaking do it. So he says Salah's in a unique position where that offer, if not, will be there next season. Yes. I mean, that's the thing. I think Mo knows that too, right? Like Mo knows, one, like you said, Matush, he'll be around because of his style of play and how he takes care of himself. He will be around, you would think, another like 5, 6, 7 seasons. And the Saudi league is going to be there anytime he wants. I guess the question will be, what the Saudi League is trying to do. They have more than accomplished in shaking up the Premier League and like European markets overall. Will they say, hey, mission accomplished? Or will they say, like, will they keep going? Like, will they reach their goal where, they somehow get into the Champions League or something weird like that? And don't never say never. Money talks. It just doesn't have, do they suddenly say, okay, now mission accomplished, we don't have to overpay for old guys and go back? But
essentially,
that's the only risk with that, assuming it's going to be there, I guess. By the way, I mean, somebody was talking about it yesterday, about the irony of the Premier League clubs complaining that the market is becoming like too expensive and everybody is overevaluated because the Saudi League, Premier League has done it for Europe for the last like decade. Is like literally obnoxious.
But it's not fair when he does it.
It hurts when he does it. We just have no idea. Salah hasn't shown any intention of leaving since he has been here. I can see a new contract with a lower release clause. Leave at 34, 35. I really think this happens next summer, where all parties involved are pretty happy with it. Well, maybe not club, but I think all parties involved will be pretty happy with it. If we get a lot of money for him, he gets to go get a lot more money. The Saudis get, the best Muslim player ever, right? So I think everybody's happy then. And then we have time to buy a replacement and stuff like that.
Do you think he leaves next summer if Liverpool double qualify for the Champions League, though, by winning the league and then winning the Europa?
That's a good question. I think if we're that much on a high, he sticks around.
Yeah.
And sadly, so here's the question, though. Do we let him stick around and run out his contract in the typical Liverpool fashion if that happens?
I guess it depends on how you structure the new contract, because you can structure it in such a way where you at least get something out of it, whether it's a lower release clause or, going to Serzi's point, the offer is going to be there for him to join the Saudi league. It's just a matter of how much money you're going to get for him. And if you can get an extra year of the production, if the production is still there and you can get that extra year and that results in another trophy, I think it's worth it to hold off if it's not a difference between getting $200 million and getting 50 million and getting just 50 million, so there's got to be, and obviously you don't know what the future offer would be, but it has to make enough sense where there's value at the club and what they achieve, and then value what you get for him and how you reinvest that.
I mean, look, I think if you win the league, right, I can see what Kazi's saying. You let him stick around because you just won the league again. I mean, in your scenario, yeah, I guess leave him stick around. But if you didn't win the league and you need more reinforcements, I don't know why you would let him run out his contract unless you do, which I think is like a very, very hopeful scenario by Kazi, where you sign him again, like an extension and stuff. I don't know he's going to, be able to say no to the money at the time anyway, and I don't think we'll be able to say no money to that at the time. So he says, who can replace Salah even if we have all that money? I mean, I know we probably said this for Bobby. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I mean, when Mo came, nobody was like, all right, we got Mo, we're set. It was a guy who couldn't really do it at Chelsea. They were like, all right, we don't know if this is Premier League and stuff. I remember when we signed Mo, and it wasn't like over the top excitement going for it. Everybody was like, let's see how it turns out the second time around. He'll be better. But I mean, we were optimistic, but we never thought he would be the guy he is. And I don't know if him or Mane are the players they are if it wasn't for the system and it wasn't for Bobby and everything too.
Yeah, so. And you can't replace him. But the thing is, if you're able to have a better team around everyone else, like imagine if you had McAllister, let's say McAllister, Fabinho, and Szoboszlai at their primes. I mean, I guess two of those guys haven't really reached their primes yet. But if we had that sort of midfield when Mo was at his prime, he'd be an absolute freak. And I think if you get in the right winger and have them grow within the midfield and they can achieve the same things together, then you don't need to get someone who can replace Mo at the level right now, but someone who in a year or so will bed in and be able to be that replacement, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to say his name now, but the kid in Napoli, off to Google.
Faradana.
And then I think I'm at where Ryan is at, not looking for an exact replica, somewhere between him and Doak. And I think you can find those guys. I mean, you can find those guys. We can go get Mitoma or somebody from Brighton for hundreds, and then Chelsea will come in and pay 120 in the last second or something like that. But I think those players will be there to go after, especially like what Ryan is saying. Yeah, you're not going to get an exact replica. You're going to get a guy that you're hoping can do the things he can. I think my thing is anything is better than just letting him go for free. For God's sakes, can we stop doing this? Either sign him to an extension, even if it's a lower release clause, so we get something for him. I don't care if it's 50, but let's get something for him. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I really don't think it's happening. Definitely not this offseason. And then if it is next offseason, we have another like 8-9 months before we get there to start talking about it. But it will probably be a conversation for the next 3 weeks until Mo comes out and says, I'm not going anywhere, shut the hell up, kind of a thing. His agent has, to be fair. But it's just a matter of, I mean, like, Cersei says talent is out there. I mean, you're not going to get that. That's why there's only so many Mo caliber players. And, there you go. Darwin fucking Nunez. What else do you need? So let's go back to the game on that note. Let's go back to the game. The lineup, I think, is kind of like what we guessed and what we thought it would be, except for maybe most of us thought Gomez, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, I thought Matip did well. There was a lot of pounding on center backs yesterday. I have no idea why.
They were fantastic. That was probably one of Gomez's best games in years, honestly.
He's lost, I guess. But,
yeah, it does. It does. I know it says a lot, but he's lost a little pace. I know there's that one moment where Tonali just outpaced the hell out of him. But overall, I feel like that was Gomez's best game in a long time. And Matip did incredibly well. And for some reason, people harping on them and then harping on Endo. And it's like, I don't know what kind of game these people are watching or what they're watching for. It doesn't make sense.
See, even in there, everybody said, "Oh, he got outpaced by Tonali." I don't think so. Like, I mean, Tonali had a head start because of positioning. I feel like he closes down enough to make Tonali force that pass earlier. But because it's Gomez, he doesn't get credit for that. If it was Van Dijk, he would get credit for that. Is where I feel. I thought they did fine. Matip, despite everybody on the team in the back, it's almost like they decided to get rid of Matip or something, just giving him ridiculously poor passes. Not only like the timing of the passing, but like bouncing balls coming in. And so they're like, how about this one in the air? And like they were like literally challenging him to make a mistake. And he did not. To his credit, I thought he played well. I hope he came out because he wasn't ready to play 90. Because if he felt a knock or something like that, then we are really in deep shit. But maybe it will force us to go into the market after all. But then again, you saw Kwanzaa come in. And I know Kazi was saying it during the game. We didn't know if that was Klopp's way of saying, this is what we got here. Or, it was.
Or look at this gem that we actually have. And they're like, fuck. John Henry, close your eyes. You haven't seen any of this.
He did well as well. But here's the thing. Yeah, you just can't look at this game and obviously suddenly change your mind about everything, because we did sit back a lot more than normal too, which does help. I mean, here's the thing. Some of our center backs would be great center backs on other teams where they get all kinds of help defensively. Our center backs are usually on islands, especially with like the right and left pushing up. So it's a lot harder to play center back here. And I think we just saw that. Yeah, if everybody leans back a little bit, yeah, Matip can clear everything coming his way too. So you kind of like, the mistake I felt like United made when they overpaid for Maguire, because Maguire is probably built in more for a team that's going to lean back so he can sweep up and clear everything. Whereas not on a team where, you're going to get countered on more than actually sit back. But so the game starts as similar to last week in horrific fashion. I think like last week it was only 5 minutes. We had to endure a lot more of it. Worst case scenarios. Let's start with Trent's yellow. Where are you at with that?
It's the frustrating thing is that by the letter of the law and what they are punishing this year, it is a yellow. And it's just frustrating because it shouldn't have happened that way, because he was fouled to begin with. And I think part of that was obviously the frustration in that he got shoved in the back and he's just sitting there. Ball comes towards him, pushes the ball back. It is what it is. Unfortunately, it's yellow. I think we honestly are pretty lucky that he wasn't given a second yellow.
That's what I want to get to, because it's the inconsistency that freaking kills me. Because he gets pushed in the back, an obvious foul, not given. So obviously he's going to be pissed. And I understand that. But at the same time, he has to be able to calm his nerves. He was on his ass when the ball landed on him and he flicked it away. I'm all for, if that's the rule, it's the focus of the year, blah, blah, blah. I'm all for it. But then at least 4 or 5 instances throughout the game, Tonali and Joelinton had the same exact thing. They kicked it away. This was more like you sit on your ass, the ball lands, you're like, God damn it, man, that's bullshit. And he flicked the ball away. This is even different. Like they kicked it afterwards. He showed Nunez a yellow. And the same thing happened multiple times during the game. Is the lack of consistency that just kills me. If you're going to show it, there should have been cards flying everywhere. I almost get the sense that they know it's kind of bullshit to show cards for that, and it's a little bit too harsh, but they almost have to do it, which brings me to your situation. If that is properly refereed, if actually Trent doesn't have a yellow card at the time, Trent is probably getting a yellow for the tackle on Gordon, right?
Correct.
So
and as much as it was embellished by Gordon, you still shouldn't put yourself in a position where you're extending your arm to stop the attacker, because that will always put you in a position where it's going to be a foul and it's going to be a card. If he wasn't on a yellow, and if it didn't just happen 30 seconds ago, he would have been booked, I think. I think the ref was like, all right, I don't know if I can really give him a second yellow right away for that. But if we're going to talk about consistency, everything has to be, whatever is a yellow, and what isn't a yellow isn't a yellow, right? So that's the most frustrating part that we'll always get into when it comes to refereeing, is just consistency. I think sometimes certain calls or the definition of the rules, that leaves a little gray area, which is, it is what it is, but there should be consistency when it comes to all that. And that's the one thing that's missing the most out of reffing in the Premier League, is just is the consistency.
Yeah, that was the thing. I mean, yeah, in some ways we kind of get away from it. The yellow is the rule. No call was soft, but a product of bad positioning. Yeah, he's kind of like, the fourth official said the club is a foul on Trent. That's insane that two officials can agree on a yellow from 5 yards out. I mean, that's what's unreal. That, he gets, like, the first one is a no-brainer because it's in the back. So there's no way it can be shoulder to shoulder. It's an elbow pushing him in the back. So that's a clear foul. Stupid yellow. Then you don't call the yellow on the other side. He should have probably gotten a red at that point. And then really that yellow set the tone for the entire game, I thought. Well, then Trent screws up. We give up the goal. So we'll go back to Trent. But in terms of the goal, the situation for Van Dijk comes from the fact that Trent has a yellow.
And he's playing off of
Gordon go. Like, you can kind of tell he just pulls off. And then, we get the Van Dijk red. Verdict on the Van Dijk red. Again,
letter of the law, it's a red. People are like, well, he got ball. He went through the man to get the ball. You can't, the argument only goes so far. If you get ball, you can't go through someone to get to the ball. And because it was outside of the box and it was a denial of a goal scoring opportunity, it's a red. I know some people were sharing a little screenshot about it can't be red, blah, blah, blah. But that was just for specifically in the box situations, not outside of the box situations, because they don't want it's almost like double jeopardy, that you can't give away a penalty and also get a red if there's a play on the ball. And so that's the big thing there. And and it's because of Trent kind of I feel like after the no yellow push, he was just in his own head. I think second half Trent was great. But for that first half, he was timid. He was scared. He knew he was playing pretty much on borrowed time. And so he was like, I don't know what to do. And that moment where, he doesn't trap the ball, lets it go under his foot, and then allowing Gordon the space to play the ball into Isak is ultimately what came from the no call at the beginning. It's sort of, it's this wonderful, for lack of a better word, domino effect that happens. If Gordon gets called for that foul, Trent never gets a yellow, the whole tone of the game is different. And so, it's unfortunate, but yes, the Van Dijk red is a red. It should just be one game, but given what has been said that he said, it might get extended, but hopefully it does not.
What did he say? I saw lots. I mean, I'm not a lip reader, and even I was like, whoa.
The fucking clown, fuck you, maybe a few other choice words that I don't know if I should say. I don't know how bad it was,
I mean,
but I know
said fucking clown, so I don't know.
I know that's probably as bad as it got.
You already went there, brother. I don't know.
I need a
Leo. Happy
censor butter button.
I mean, I don't know, maybe because I play and talk like that during the games, but I feel like some of that language should be excused in moments of heat, because things I say during games and, while playing games, I feel like, there's a lot of stuff said that you lip read, and there's no way in hell the ref read. I think after a certain time, like, they kind of like don't hear it, pretend not to hear it, and keep going, kind of a deal. And I think this is a good point. He does not show the second yellow to Trent, the red, because of the first yellow. And I think Kazi is right. If Trent is already gone, he is not putting us down to 10 men over there. I think he gets a yellow. Obviously, we're just, hypothetical, but I agree that because these decisions are made based on prior decisions and not on the situation alone, kind of like Trent's not given second yellow.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just going to sit here and say if Trent was given a second yellow, Isak never gets that opportunity because Gordon doesn't cut in front of whoever would be there, because Trent wouldn't be there letting him have the space, so it wouldn't have existed. But if we're hypothetically everything still goes the same way, I think it's still a red because of the definition of the law, of how it's written. And I don't think VAR would have overturned it.
I think, yeah, whatever the decision was being made, VAR was not
So I
overturned.
guess if he does go for yellow, it's not like VAR is going to take a look and say, no, it's not a yellow, mate,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I guess in that sense, I could see it not being a red, but since it was a red, and then yeah, so okay,
Because I'll be honest, watching it live, I thought it was a foul initially. It looked like he went through him, and I was like, "Oh, I guess it's clean," because the game went on for a couple of more seconds, and then I never thought it would be a red, even if it was a card. I thought it would be a yellow. I did not think it would be a red, because in that situation, I wasn't like, "Oh my god, if he doesn't do that tackle, it's a goal." I didn't get that feeling. Like it wasn't like when Gordon was going, and then if you yank him, yeah, he was going towards goal.
yeah.
Um, Trent did bounce back, says Ryan. Don't want to shit on him all day. Well, I do want to shit on him all day. Can we please make him a right back again and say, here's a book. Here's what the right back does. Here's your priority. Here's what you're responsible for. And play him as a right back and give up on this experiment. Because I felt watching the game yesterday, I think Kazi was talking about feeling bad for Endo yesterday. I thought Endo was extremely confused seeing freaking Trent next to him all freaking game in the beginning. Because he was like, what, you were here? Hold on, let me slide to the left then. Give you some space over here. I mean, Endo looked very, very lost yesterday, to be fair.
It'll. I mean, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
He's played. Let's see, 40 minutes with 11 guys on the pitch in 2 games, like something
Has
ridiculous
he
like
done
that.
40 minutes?
What's that?
Has he even done 40 minutes? Because he came on.
Well, he came in
10.
about 70th, right, against Bournemouth, and then Verge got sent off 26th. So I'd say it's almost a half.
But you were already down to 10 men. That's why he came in the Bournemouth game.
Oh wait, no, you're right, because it wasn't. No, you're right. No, it's literally only been 26 minutes.
So it's like, yeah, it was like, that's the thing. I felt bad for him, but in terms of Trent, I really think he's forcing it in the middle. I kind of talked about this in the post match. The thing that frustrates me is we've kind of like put this on him now. He knows, I'm sure, well, he's not good defensively, and hope to God is something he's working on. Because yesterday I thought he was horrific again defensively, and I'm sick of hearing it's not the system when the guy keeps running by you and he takes you one on one every time and he gets by you. That's your defending. It doesn't have anything to do with the system. And then he kind of like slides in, and I feel like he knows that he's a liability defensively, so he has to contribute in the attacking way. And none of those passes that he like was kind of like sending from the middle was going where they should be. I really don't think, maybe last season we needed it. We had Fab in there, we had Hendo in there. Like we didn't have the most creative midfield. I don't think we need that anymore. You have Mac, you have Soboslai. Put him back as right back. Let Mac come and get the ball. I think Endo can distribute once he sees 11 players on the field. But I like that Endo, like when he came on, like when he plays, he tries to get the ball to somebody who's going to actually go with it, which I do like out of a defensive midfielder. But this whole inverted fullback thing, it's almost like, yeah, he sucks defensively, so let's get what we can out of him offensively. Is just not working after this point. I say put him back as a right back and say, do your job.
Or until the new additions are able to play with each other and understand each other in a way where they know where they can be in space, where it will work. But yeah, I think given that we haven't had 2 creative midfielders in Mac and Sobo like we've had in the past, that allows them so much more space and opportunity to be able to be the one to play make. And it's not forcing Trent to have to do everything from that right side, because before he had to do all sorts of playmaking. And just because there wasn't the midfielder there. Hendo had a few great passes, right? Like I think Hendo is an underrated passer of the ball.
Yeah.
But ultimately it was a lot of side to side, and every once in a while he'd have that perfect through ball. But Trent was always the one who was expected to break the lines and be able to get up and down the field. Whereas now you have Sobo and Mac that can do that for you, and you don't need to go up as much. And so maybe by having him not push up as much, you don't have to worry about him getting beat so often, and have him play back a little bit. Maybe preserve some of that energy for defense rather than having to go up. Have Sobo take some corners every once in a while from both the right and the left side. You know, I feel like we've seen what Sobo is capable of with corner kicks. Why not just kind of give him more of an opportunity to do that from both sides and let Trent not have to push up as much. So I would agree there.
And I think it lets Robertson be Robertson. Like if it enables your left back to be a left back where he thrives in, and let's face it, he does not when he's playing this other system because he's held back a lot more, and that's not his thing either. It's just, yeah, Ryan says exactly the same thing. Let's keep him as right back so Robin can. I mean, I think that's what we need. That's what made the team successful, and you do have the middle now where, like with Mac and Szoboszlai, that can give you that creativity. I think Henderson's biggest strength was moving the ball fast compared to everybody else and switching the wings and stuff like that. Like people were like, oh, he passes sideways. Yeah, but he switched the wing and he did it fast. And especially for defenses that sit back, that's what you need to do, move the ball fast from like wing to wing. Yeah, I think it's very frustrating. And I think at this point, people are just, I backed him once, so I got to keep backing him into when it comes to trends. You just got to call it as it is. Anybody else would be crucified. Like, if Gomez did half of the errors that like Trent does, if that was Gomez yesterday, everybody would want him sold today. If he played like how Trent has over the last, I don't know, few months easily, right? I think it'll be the same thing again. You just got to call it as it is. Trent's most offensive passing comes in the wing back. Exactly. And that's another thing. Like we took that away from him in terms of like how we can kind of like, curve those into the box. I don't know what we're getting in this situation. I really thought that was going to be a deadly combination, having him, Mo, and Szoboszlai on the right side, because that's a lot to deal with. I feel like by bringing him inside, yeah, maybe you get to isolate Szoboszlai and Mo a bit more, but you kind of like scrunching the other side so we're not getting anything from the left in terms of Robertson. He has to stay back. I don't know what we're getting out of this now. And we're giving away even more defensive weaknesses.
And I feel like the triangle between Trent, Stobo, and Salah, and the triangle between Rabo, Mac, and Diaz can be more effective if both of those those wings can actually operate up and down those flanks and not have to come in like you're saying. So yeah, absolutely. And I think just going back to the point that we're making is that I think maybe it'll take a little time to understand that we are in a different position with our midfield than we have been before, with the amount of creativity and potential playmaking and just the skill on the ball. Because we've seen both McAllister and Szoboszlai can be on the ball for extended amounts of time. So they're different from Hendo. They're different from Fab. They're not going to just move the ball around really quickly, right? So I think to exploit what they're best at, you give them more time on the ball, but not have to sort of keep them stuck in a single position either. Because that takes away from them being able to move up and down as much as they like to.
I just don't see the case about, the advantages now. I think last year we could make a case because we need that creativity. I don't feel like we need it anymore. And he can still do it at will if he wants to. But at this point, I think I would rather have like Endo distribute that ball or Mac drop off or Szoboszlai drop off to get the ball or whatever, as opposed to kind of like shoving Trent in there. I mean, I would hate to play, and the right center back on this team gets hammered at all times. Why don't you try defending a wing by yourself? And then when they make mistakes or it's like he's open, like what do you want him to do? He's covering multiple people. And then maybe it won't leave as much of an excuse that's, leave an excuse for Trent for defending it. Like, oh, it's the positioning and stuff like that. Get over yourself. And I think we have to admit it that he is lacking a lot defensively. He did, however, to give him credit, a couple of times he was able to track back and like a long cross into the box, he was able to defend it. That's something that has been weakness in the past. So perhaps he has learned that.
And there was one moment in the second half where Gordon tried to take him into the box and Trent took the best angle and cut him right off. And so that was, one-on-one, that was probably his best moment there. So yeah, there's glimmers of hope there where you can see that he's capable of it. It's just like the refereeing. It's just the consistency and the want to be able to do it consistently.
Yeah, I think I agree with Parto here. Like if you think about it, 2 weeks and 2 poor touches from Trent, that's led directly to 2 goals. Exactly. And by the way, I read everywhere. I mean, I know people are trying to protect Trent, but Jesus Christ, they were like, Mo's pass was not good. Get the hell out of here. It rolled under his foot. I mean, to blame Mo somehow for this, people were getting out of their way or to protect Trent. Get the heck out of here. There's a possibility his concentration be impacted in his hybrid role versus playing right back on autopilot. That's part of it, I think. That's one. I definitely agree to that. I think to go along with that, I think he tries extra hard to create something offensively, forcing things because he knows he's lacking defensively, or trying to make up for it. Like, say, what? This is what I'm doing. So I'm not going to be tracking back on this one, guys, kind of a thing. So just put him back at right back. He was just as effective attacking and contributing offensively there. And then that enables Robertson. We'll see what he'd be making adjustments. And it sucks because this is the first time we had the midfield that we think is going to be going on during the season on top games. This is going to be the lineup starting in midfield, and we still didn't get to see him like 11v11 for more than like 20, 25 minutes. But what did you make of Endo's game, I guess, until then?
Fine. I mean, kind of exactly what you would expect him to do. I feel like the whole team was a little rattled after the Trent yellow and after the push, and everyone was sort of on eggshells in a way. So I don't think we really got a good look at what Endo could have produced in that game or could have offered. I think the annoying part is that we're going to sit here, and next week we also won't be able to see our full capable starting 11. So we might not be able to really understand who our strongest capable starting 11 is until like late September. I don't know. Like until we get to that point where we can have first choice selections in each position, can we truly see how these guys play with each other? And you can individually look at some things and go, he did something well here, something well there, but it's hard to really judge him based on the circumstances and what he's had to deal with so far.
Yeah, I mean, I felt a couple of times. I remember one situation where he kind of went to intercept and missed out. And yeah, you can afford to do that and leave that much space behind, but it happens.
I think that was in like the 70th minute, though. That was in the
It was second half, right? But then in the first half, I mean, here's the thing. He was going against Joe Linton, who's a mountain of a man. So he was getting physically abused a lot, but you don't face a lot of, I don't know if you face any other Joe Lintons in midfields because he's one of a kind in that sense. Mind you, he gets away with like 20, 30 fouls a game somehow. And I think that's because of the size. He's like, what is he going to do? He's a big man kind of a thing. It's like he doesn't have to kick people after the ball is gone just because he's a big man. I mean, it's just like I don't get how he gets away with it.
I think Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton at St. James's Park is probably one of the toughest assignments to have your first ever start at Liverpool. And so I don't think it was necessarily set up for him to succeed, and everything that transpired in the next 25 minutes made it even more difficult. So I think once we get to see him play next to people who are supposed to be there with him and have a full strength 11, then we'll get to really see that he's more than just a stopgap. And I think we've read and heard that Klopp saying that he is a starter, and he just needs to prove that, and we just need to see that, and that's it.
I mean, it's probably like a toughest away game, and going back to that, I mean, like Sir Roundson says, we got 7 out of 9 with 2 really hard away games. It just hurts that first hard away game would not be
wasn't that hard
of the season. It's only going to get harder. But I would have taken that. I mean, it's fair because I would have probably taken 7 out of 9 as a pretty darn good start, having seen the schedule. It's going to be important to finish off before the international break to get the 3 points against Villa, because I think then like 10 out of the 12 with that fixture list looks pretty darn good, looks pretty solid, and it will be gives you hope for the future. But yeah, going back to Endo, I thought Ryan says I think he likes how he sits, and I think he's almost more comfortable doing that, like protecting the center backs right in front of him, as opposed to, it's going to be interesting to see. We don't know how Villa is going to play, but Emery usually sets up pretty good against Klopp. By experience, we know that. But it's going to be interesting how Villa plays, because I want to see Endo where we have a lot more of the ball and see how he contributes there. I think he has, anytime we've seen him, we've been kind of reeling. So he's been defending a lot, and he's been defending back a lot more as opposed to defending like how Fab would defend to intercept balls and stuff like that. But yeah, too early to make a judgment on that. So before we get to the Nunez action, the next, like the second half, I think the first half was like, let's just get to the half kind of a deal, right? The second half begins. Do you give that to Eddie Howe after the game was like, no, our mindset was to score more. But I don't know if Eddie Howe even knows without the dude next to him for some reason why that dude is in his pockets at all times. I do not. I have never ever seen anything like that. Like assistant to the regional manager, the dude is like next to him at any given time. You can't see Eddie Howe in the picture without him next to it. I don't get it. But anyway, so I don't know what Eddie Howe says after the game is like the other guy wrote it to him and gave it to him and he was reading it. But he said they were going for it and stuff. But it did come across as they were kind of cruising, which I think helped us.
Yeah, and we have to give a little bit of credit to Allison with the Miggy save toward, I think it was like toward the end of the first, maybe the 36th minute ish. One of the best saves of the year so far, probably. And then got a little fortunate when Almiron hit the post. It was in like the 70th minute when he made that run through McAllister and Gomez. So I think we saw a similar thing with us. I think it was either last year. I believe it was last year. Whenever we'd go down to 10 men, or I mean, the opponent would go down to 10 men, we found it so difficult to play against 10 men. And in a way, I was seeing a lot of that in Newcastle because I feel like for me, Newcastle reminds me a lot of what we were like 5 years ago. Kind of like full metal, balls to the wall, kind of full fitness, just go fly up and down. And when you have the man advantage and then you're kind of playing against a team that's being more compact, you can't play the way that you're used to playing. So then you kind of, it messes with you a little bit and then allows for a team like on the counterattack, especially if you have the pace of Salah and Nunez and Jota even, to be able to hit you on the counterattack when you're kind of lulled to sleep in a way. And so I think sometimes it's just difficult to play when you have the man advantage because in your head you're thinking we're fine, everything, there's nothing to really worry about. But then it just takes one quick moment of everything to break down. And that's what happened twice.
Yeah, I was a buddy of mine was asking me, like, why is that? And it's really hard to explain why it is harder to play, not harder, but it's very different to play against 10 men. It like changes like everything. I was trying to make like a American sports analogy, and really I struggled. The best I could think of was like, if you're an offensive lineman and you have an assignment in the play, like to block a certain guy, and that guy is not there, by fucking trying to be like, oh shit, this guy is here, I guess I'll do this or whatever. You can screw up a play, get a penalty or whatever. But even that, it was kind of like hard to explain how a lack of a guy doesn't like make it more difficult, but totally changes everything because I think the spacing changes a lot more. So you expect that spot to be open when that happens. It's not happened anymore. And I think, yeah, I mean, Ryan is right. I think when the team goes down to 10, as aggravating as it is, because it feels like, well, why didn't you guys play this in the first place? Everybody steps out there again because everybody knows now you're down to 10. So you do have to automatically in your mindset, I mean, having done both, somehow more playing as 10 than 11 against 10, but that's a different story. Obviously, I was out there, so I was not the one at fault. So let's get that out of the way here. But it's like, yeah, there is a thing to be like automatically, subconsciously, you're like, I got to try harder now. I got to focus even more. Whereas the other team, I think, is like the reverse effect, where they're like, oh, they're down to 10. And we're a goal up. And they kind of went into cruise mode. I mean, they still created chances, but they were not as aggressive. And I think they're similar to us in the sense that they thrive when they have to be aggressive. It reminds me of a lot of games that we've had where, we're like trying to control the pace and close out the game, but somehow we give up more chances doing that as opposed to attacking the other team. And that really helped. But let's give credit to, I mean, I know Chris was talking about Ali, and yeah, I mean, to me, I know Nunez is there. Appreciates the support, but really, Ali once again keeps the team in the game. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how many subs we make or what we get and stuff like that. Game was going south really fast. Apart from that, he had a couple other saves. I was watching the highlights afterwards. I was like, oh, and I think the biggest thing that won't get talked about, everybody will talk about the saves, but despite being a man down, because of his ability on the ball with his feet, we were able to get
Still
out of
play.
their press and not be as bogged down as we normally would be, because it was like having an extra guy in the back because how comfortable he is with the ball on his feet. So I think that gets kind of overlooked, but that really helps against a team that likes to press. But let's give Klopp credit, I think, for substitutions, because we usually give him crap. But I thought it was a really smart move to put Jota and Nunez in. First of all, being aggressive and saying, hey, we got to get something out of this game. And two, being able to bring two guys who are like more thrive in space as opposed to like a compact defense.
Yeah, I think it was at the moment where you go, okay, we're either going to lose this game 2-3-0 or we're going to go out and win it. And, this is the one game away at St. James's Park. You take that opportunity when you have it. You take that chance. You take that risk. If you lose by another goal or two, so what? At least you gave it that effort. And by bringing on both Jota and Nunez, I think when Diaz first came off, I think a lot of us were a little weirded out by the decision because it felt like he would be the best option on the field besides Salah for counterattacking if we're going to sit back a little bit with 10 men. So it seemed like it didn't make sense to take him off at the time. And I still do think that maybe taking off Gakpo in that moment would have been a better idea. But I think overall, it worked out. So yeah, it opened up chaos, and that's pretty much what you want. You want to bring a guy in for 13 minutes, scores 2 goals, gets a yellow card, has 6 touches on the ball. Like that is the agent chaos right there, and that's all that you want.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is, like that long ball, the first ball that came to him that he couldn't
What he
control,
missed?
like,
Yeah, I was just like, fucking
like,
hell,
oh,
man. Here
like,
we go again.
Yes, this kid, man, if he had that touch there, he can crank a shot. Because I feel like I'm a lot more confident in his finishing than his control and, taking people on somehow. Like, you knew when he cranked that shot, both of them are really good finishes. I think those get overlooked.
Finishes.
Those are really, really good finishes. So it almost feels like, man, if he can really get a couple of these things like the pressing and the system down, and I thought he spoke English a lot, like he learned English. I thought Ali, by the way, so if Ali was able to translate for people, maybe he would have gotten my vote to be captain. You know what I mean? I felt like language was the barrier with Ali. If he's gonna be able to freaking like translate, and that was like really odd because Ali did not do a lot of interviews a few years back because of his English, and now he's translating over.
Well, he was speaking Portuguese, and Nunez was responding in Spanish, and then Ali was translating in English. I was like, this is culture here. I love this.
And Trent on the right side is so cool. I don't know. He said Newcastle. I heard that kind of. So obviously that's huge for Nunez. That goes without saying. So 2 questions will pop up. One, next week's 11. Obviously, we have all week to talk about it, and we'll see what happened, what else has changed, and everything. But does that make him a starter? You say, hey, you got to start this kid, or you're like, this is exactly what we need from you, and you start with the same 11 and let him come off the bench again to create chaos if things are not going well.
It's difficult because I think after seeing the lineup drop yesterday, in my head I was thinking, okay, so Nunez is starting next week against Villa. That's already what I was telling myself because I was like, I think that was the opportunity for him to get that start. With the way that he finished off yesterday, I feel like I hate to say it, but I feel like Klopp owes it to him to give him that chance. I understand that it's more complicated than that, and there's tactics that go into it. But if you really want to inspire this kid's confidence, starting him on the bench after he just scored 2 goals in 14 minutes to bring the team back, I think that would hurt more than help his confidence in who he is as a player. Again, I don't know him personally. That might be total shit. I'm just speaking from a psychological point of view of having this guy who has tried so hard to get into consistent minutes, gets this moment to really spark this team and perhaps spark the whole season. We don't know. We said this after Salah's goal against City last year, where that was like, all right, we're going to win the league. That obviously didn't happen. But like, it feels like one of those moments where career just takes off. And if you don't get the start after it, it's almost a disservice to the guy. But saying that, I understand, again, like I said, there's tactics that goes into it. It's more complicated than that. But I do feel like he deserves a start and he should start. Though I will agree that coming off the bench, if you have 4 defenders back there who have just tried to cover Diaz, Gakpo, and Salah for 70 minutes, and you see this fucking monster come in, you are scared. And so I get that. But also sometimes it's hard. We've seen Nunez try to get those 10, 15, 20 minutes, and he can't get himself into the game because it's too late at that point, and he's forcing too much. And I think if he starts, he can naturally let the game come to him a little bit more and be able to impact it from the beginning as much as he can impact it at the end.
Yeah, I'm a little torn on this because, like, you first made a good case, but at the very end, as you were finishing it up, I was like, that could also be a reason to tell him, don't force shit when you come in. Let this shit come to you. This is what you can do. And I think I do like him running against tire legs, like Ryan is saying. And yeah, like, do you reward him? Yeah, I am pretty torn on this. I still say off the bench. If I flip back and forth during the week, I would not be surprised. But I do still say off the bench just because I think he's a lot more effective that way. The only downfall I've always said of him coming off the bench was exactly what you just said, that he comes in and it feels like he has to make an impact and stuff. I think hopefully something like this helps him and helps Klopp tell him, just let shit come into you. You don't have to force it. You're a finisher. Just do your thing and good things are going to happen. See, kind of a deal. Like, you don't have to start to make an impact kind of a thing. Go for the 6-man award in the NBA kind of a deal. So
be the Jamal Crawford we all need you to be.
Just come in and score when we need it. Yeah.
That is one hell of a comparison no one will ever hear again. Darwin Nunez is the Jamal Crawford of the Premier League.
Pretty expensive Jamal Crawford. Nobody was paying Jamal Crawford that kind of money. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it will help Klopp in terms of manage him in that sense too, and say, hey, this is what you can do on a regular basis. Just because I don't know how Villa is gonna set up and stuff like that. It's tactical. I still want Gakpo in the middle, I think, especially in a game like next week. We didn't get to see Gakpo has not been his best, I think, this season so far. He was a lot more effective in the preseason. But I guess you could say the same with Jota. I would not be shocked to see Jota actually start on the left.
Ahead of Diaz?
Yeah. I know Diaz came off early, but right before that, it looked like he felt something. So it'll be interesting to hear more about that. And going into an international break, maybe why risk him? Let him rest that. But again, I don't know if he's going to end up playing for Colombia anyway. But I think I can see Jota and Mo have like a good connection out there, you can tell. And that trio did really well. If you do start a front three, maybe you reward the entire three then and throw Jota on the left as well. But that kind of like eliminates, Diaz and Gakpo and have them come off the bench and say, how about we try this now? I think it's good problems to have. Problems we don't have in center back equation that we would love to have. Let's put it that way. But before we get to that, we'll have all week to talk about that. And obviously, the window closes this week. So Friday morning, we'll have a post-window show to talk about that stuff.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm here anyway. So might as well. So for the team, I know Klopp said like he's never had a win like this before. He even like stopped to think. It was like, nope, nothing like this. With like 10 men and all the situation and stuff. But he even admitted that he doesn't know. Like, we might look back at this and say, that was the game, man, that made this team a title contender and win the title. Or we could be like, talk about it how we talk about the City game now.
Yeah.
What do you think
I hope it's the former rather than the latter in that situation. That's for sure. But it could be the catalyst for the season. It could be a catalyst for his career, for Darwin's career. These are the moments that truly impact a team for an entire year. So obviously this is going to be a stupid answer, but we'll find out at the end of the year.
Okay, Jurgen.
what happened?
Yeah, it's hard to tell, right? I mean, really, Villa game becomes really important to get the 3 points out of that Villa game, because I feel like that adds to the momentum. Otherwise, it's going to be like, we blew our load against Newcastle and then now like can't play against Villa kind of thing. Because Villa's a dangerous team. They have a lot of like good players in there, like attacking wise, that can give us
like Matty Cash.
The Polish Cafu, as I was calling him yesterday. But at the same time, Matty Cash is not going to be able to like run around and have fun like that against us. He's going to have to sit back a lot more, I would think.
Oh,
and I don't think Pau Torres is able to replace, right? Their center back situation.
Because Mings is down for the season, right? I don't. Pau Torres got a little bit bullied yesterday. We'll see. I think he just needs a little bit more time to bed in. Still, I like Pau Torres. I feel like he can be a serviceable center back. I just don't know if it's right now. I think it'll take a little time. He seems
to struggle with the pace. Like you can see the qualities there, but he seems to struggle with the pace. So before he freaking gets used to it, we can kind of take advantage of that, hopefully, and do something. Because I feel like that as a defense can be exploited, but like they're a lot more dangerous on the counter than, for example, Bournemouth was, and they have a lot more better players like
Correct.
in the middle of the field, and that's kind of like my concern there. But so prediction time before we go. The window is closing. Does somebody sneak in right before we close the window, or we just close it shut and be like?
I thought you were going to ask about the Villa game. I was going to say 7-2 Villa. Yes, I think
Holy cow, you're late, Sparky. Not even close. I mean,
Ryan. Sorry, you're lucky you still made it on the fucking show.
You caught the predictions, man.
I think there's one more surprise signing, but it's not going to be a big name. It's sort of going to be like a mellow situation, I think. Just for a body, just a number.
I just hope we don't do that. It's just such a waste. Like
that's what we do, baby.
That is what we do. That's how we do. CB or CN?
Not CB. Yeah, I think you'd have to go center back if you're looking. I mean, unless Jarell Quansah is the next Virgil van Dijk, all of a sudden, it's we've still needed a left-footed center back since years ago. So like there's still that. That hasn't changed for a long time. So if anything, there should be a serviceable left-footed center back that I think could at least play Europa League games, and you don't have to worry about it.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I don't think you're going to get like a superstar center back at the stage anyway.
Yeah, you're not going to get someone who's going to start regularly in the Premier League, but someone who can rotate for Europa, I think it would be great.
And who doesn't put your, heart in your mouth anytime he does come off the bench in a Premier League game and stuff like that too. But like I say, I really felt yesterday the center backs got way too much criticism for how they played. I thought they played really well against I know I did as well. Gave Newcastle credits or like some of the credit for our comeback in terms of like not really attacking, but I thought we did really well defending overall.
Yeah,
to keep the Newcastle team really to two main chances, right? The alley save and the one that hits the post. Which again, I don't even put that on the midfield. The dude like went through the entire field by himself. It felt like once he got the ball. So I thought they did well overall, especially being thrown into the situation. It's, I think, different when you're going to start as opposed to wait, what's going on, and then jump in a game against Newcastle at Newcastle in a difficult situation. So
the only center back that deserves some criticism is Van Dijk, because there was a terrible decision to try to go through Isak for that. That was very unlike him, and I think he could have played that much better.
Yeah, I think the old Van Dijk runs along him because he has the pace to do so, and shoulders them, or at least escorts them towards the corner of the box.
Let me show you the corner flag. So it's right over here.
Come with me. We're going to the corner, kind of a deal. Where, like put a shoulder, or at least be shoulder to shoulder along the way, and the other guy falls or something like that. But that would be the old Van Dijk. So, but still, I thought until then we played well. It's that yellow card, like I say, everything changed very early in the game.
Yeah.
We keep saying this. Let's hope. One thing is, I hope this team plays against Villa, not like how they started against Bournemouth, and alert, knowing to ride this momentum. This is a good tool for Klopp to really. I mean, these are like moments that make teams, especially because of the way it came in. I know Nunes gets all the glory, but they played against 10 men. They fought a lot. We don't feel that on our end, but it's a lot of fighting on their end. And you could tell by what the players were saying after the game that, this is a hard thing. And they know, like everybody over there knows how hard they have to work to make it happen.
And how they celebrated that second goal around Klopp. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think let's hope we carry that on to the Villa game, but we shall see what happens during the week. The boys are back tonight. I might not be able to join them. Moving Layla to the city to college. Empty nester time. Yes. Parties at my place, if you know what I mean. So Doubts will make it back in time for that live broadcast. I might try to hop on, but it'll be Gally and Bickler tonight. Give their games. That's why I kind of spilled my guts on the game in the morning show over here. I have no material left anyway. No content left for tonight, so they're gonna have to pick up the slack. They'll be back, and I will be back Wednesday morning with the morning show, and we'll be talking about all these new signings and stuff like that. Polish Prince, thank you for your support.
Thank you for support.
And you guys have an awesome week. No need to be grumpy this week. Can't have kicked off a week in a better way than we did. Maybe a center back signing or something like that. But you guys have an excellent week. Take care.